here, girly. That was a quote from Lake Michigan Monster.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Awful Takes podcast after a long hiatus.
Sorry about that,
do apologize,
guys.
everyone. We got a little busy over the past couple weeks and everything. You know, just personal lives, things like that tend to get a little crazy. But we are back, and we are excited. We might be doing a little bit of catch up with a couple of reviews and things like that. So
we back.
Yeah, but we are here with episode 47.
Yeah, geez, almost there to 50.
So thank you guys for joining us. This is the show where we talk about movies, music. We make recommendations towards each other, and we have awful takes about them. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've never once ever tried to make movies or music or anything like that. So yeah, take everything I say with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt. Okay. But thank you guys for joining us. My name is Nabahi.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sergator Productions.
And we have some movie news that we want to catch up on. That's kind of our structure of the show. But if you're here for just the review, feel free to skip ahead. A little bit of movie news that is kind of crazy to me that I just mentioned to Wallied. I kind of mentioned a couple weeks ago that Paramount is looking to buy Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is going up for sale, which to me is just ridiculous because I think Warner Brothers bought Discovery.
Yeah, David Zaslavsky.
Yeah, they merged and now they're trying to sell themselves. That sounds weird. But
I mean, it's true though. You're not wrong.
Yeah, Paramount was looking to bid for it, which I believe we covered. And now I guess Warner Brothers is being seen as this lucrative property that people might want. And someone else has entered in the bidding space, and it is Netflix. And they are looking to purchase Warner Brothers. I think they are preparing to offer a bid that's certainly higher than Paramount. Who knows who has the more money? Honestly, I haven't really looked at the numbers.
I couldn't even tell you. They're both very big companies.
Yeah. I guess for me, what the crazy thing is, at least for me personally, I was around when Netflix was first coming out. I was alive during that time. And it's crazy. Netflix was literally this online website where you would rent movies. And
Didn't you get them in the mail or something?
They would send them to your house. And I remember as a family, we did that. And it was just like this revolutionary way of distributing and renting movies. Just to think that simple online service, you know, evolved into what it is now with streaming and everything, is looking to buy one of the biggest movie studios in history is kind of insane. Like that just really, I don't know. When I heard that piece of news, like that just really blew my mind. I was like, holy crap. I remember when Netflix was just this little renting service, and now here it is. It has enough money, I guess, to purchase, you know, a movie studio. So that's kind of the first part that kind of blew my mind. The second part of this that really just, I'm not too interested in Netflix buying Warner Brothers. I feel like Netflix is strictly made, like their movies and things, they're made for TV, you know, they're made to be watched at home.
Yep.
They're not really, they don't have that kind of cinematic flair to it. Especially watching some of their movies. I can't even tell you the amount of times like the sets and everything just looks so bland. The camera work is so bland. You know, everything just feels like just like a simple kind of machine, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cheap kind of budget. It's not like anything crazy unless it's Red Notice, and then they just throw like $100 million at it, you know.
And I think that would be a big misstep for them to purchase Warner Brothers. And just to now kind of craft their movies around that. Who knows? Maybe they're looking to get more into like the theatrical releases and things.
Yeah, which I mean, they've kind of been doing with like The Irishman and Marriage Story. They did like 6 years ago. So, I mean, it's not like that big of a surprise they've done that. But
I just feel like they haven't really taken the biggest step towards that. I still feel like when they kind of dip their toes in, they pull their legs back because they're like, yeah, let's just stick to what we do and do the regular releases, you know?
Yeah, which was kind of surprising, but oh well.
Yeah, so honestly, I really wouldn't want Warner Brothers to be purchased by Netflix. I really don't think that's a good fit.
Just seems more like a monopolizing type of thing.
And I wouldn't want to see a studio that I really love, kind of just now kind of changed, I guess I kind of see it similar to a lot of these bigger video game publishers buying like these little studios that make great games, and then they just kind of dismantle them, and it's just so
dissolve eventually.
Yeah, and then the whole team ends up leaving, and they're like, and it feels weird, it's, I guess I kind of see it as like Microsoft buying all these game studios, and then they just slowly, after a little bit, the team leaves, they shut them down, and it's just like, how is that good for anyone? These guys were really great visionaries, they made great games and things like that. I don't know. We're in a weird space. Definitely hearing about that just really kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's not something I ever thought I'd hear in a million years,
Yeah.
I guess the kind of one thing that does worry me is if most of the Warner Brothers stuff will just go straight to streaming now.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the one concerning thing, or if it maybe won't get physical media, things like that as much, especially because very rarely Netflix ever really does like physical media for a lot of their shows and movies, so that's one thing that does like concern me as somebody who does believe in media preservation.
And it's crazy to think that Netflix, like even if you just look back 10 years ago, like what Netflix was, now that they're big enough to buy these studios, it's just kind of crazy,
Yeah.
Or you have these studios coming to them to release their movies that they make, and it's just really just for me, just kind of mind blowing. Because again, like I kind of have been there through Netflix's, all of its evolutions, but renting the movies, they come to your house. I remember having my Xbox and first trying out streaming on there, and it was just crazy. It was a crazy idea to me. Like I put it on, and there was like this little progress bar that would load your movie before you could press play. And that's how I ended up watching a lot of shows and things like that I hadn't seen at the time. And then just seeing to what it is now, like all these big movies will get released on there, and that's how people now consume their media, but we'll have to wait and see. So sure. Netflix, please, just don't bid. Just stay out of it.
Stay out of it.
All right, Wallied, what was the other bit of movie news you were hoping to discuss?
Something that really caught my attention and interest recently was Charlie Kaufman was working on a film earlier this year, and he's kind of one of the more recent writer-directors who had a project going, but then the project just kind of fizzled out. There were some big names attached to it, like Tessa Thompson and Eddie Redmayne, which was kind of insane.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah. But it was shut down earlier. And one of the things that was going on was apparently there was a big, messy production hiccup. Charlie Kaufman in the article, he says, "I'm having great difficulty. I'm not a person that people want to trust with their money. It's very frustrating," which is just very depressing to kind of hear. And granted, like with him, a lot of his films unfortunately don't do really well just because they're a bit more artsier. They're a bit more harder to sell to kind of like a big target audience and everything, especially with films like Synecdoche, New York, or I'm Thinking of Ending Things, or Anomalisa. And it's just something I feel like I've been kind of noticing, not only with Charlie Kaufman, but with other kind of auteur filmmakers like Terry Gilliam and John Waters. And it's just something that I'm just kind of shocked by, It's not like I feel like these films cost a lot to make, but I feel like maybe what might be going on is like, because they are so high concept and because you can't really sell them, I think maybe producers get scared of that or something, and it's just something that I was like, it does sadden me, because people want to see more from these filmmakers, and yet they just kind of end up getting scrapped and there's not much they can really do, so kind of how did you feel about that? It's like,
I'll throw out just like kind of a theory I have. I really, again, I'm not too well versed in this stuff, but maybe it's just kind of the trends I kind of notice now. I feel like studios and all the studio heads and everyone like that kind of funding these projects are now trying to be as preemptive, getting ahead of everything before you know, the day of release comes out, you know? And I think what they do is they examine these movies, whether it's through like watching dailies, you know, being on set, things like that. And I think now studios are more protective of their bottom dollar more than anything. And especially more than any time in history, you know? Mm-hmm. I feel like now studios are really trying to just, it's not like how it was back then, you know, like 10, 20 years ago where, oh, okay, we have a movie that we know is kind of bad, but maybe we can kind of market this in a way to where we might make a profit, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like now studios don't even want to take that risk. And when they see these movies and how they're panning out, they'd rather just shelve them entirely just to, you know, kind of forgo the cost and maybe kind of get like a tax write-off or whatever. And I just kind of see that now. I see studios are really just hammering down on the things that they really don't think are going to be profitable, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely turned more into like a business. And this is something I feel like I've noticed a lot more because a lot of like Kaufman's films are very like mid-budget. They kind of they range between like the 10 to 30 million, you know, especially the collaborations he did with like Spike Jonze with like being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
You know, they had a bit of like a mid-budget to them, you know, and I feel like that kind of style of filmmaking's kind of mostly gone now. Like it's either like super high budget or it's like low budget where it's maybe like $1 or $2 million or like an extreme shoestring where it's just like maybe a $10,000-$20,000. You know, I feel like that's a trend I've noticed a lot more recently, and I kind of hope we get back to the kind of mid-budget stuff like a lot of Charlie Kaufman stuff, just because I feel like that those are some of the best films, you know, is where they can have that middle budget between being a very ambitious, but also being very grounded too, you know.
Studios really don't want to, you know, they'll forgo the big money if they think it's going to offer a big return, but something a lot smaller. That's why they kind of, that's why like horror kind of does so well, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's
so
not like
cheap.
super expensive or anything, you know?
And more than likely, you're going to see kind of a good return on it, you know, just because people kind of gravitate towards that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think now what we're seeing is studios, you know, even kind of jumping the gun a little bit, you know, really getting ahead of the curve and really kind of examining what they do and don't want, which kind of sucks because I feel like you really should know before you even start
make
filming
the movie, right?
Yeah,
like, didn't they read like his script? Like, you know, they see these cast members, like,
and like if he did a pitch on it, you know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
how do you have a reaction to where maybe it might be like more middle of the road? Like, oh, it sounds interesting. You know what? We'll just do it anyways. And then halfway through, you know what? Nah,
it's not really working. Let's just throw it out. Like, that's kind of messed up, you know, like you're wasting other people's jobs, you're wasting other people's time. Like, what's even the point of doing that?
I think studios really need to start examining what they, you know, really just don't announce, don't do anything until you know for sure this is what you want to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I hate hearing that, you know, things get canceled. I hate hearing that things get shelved or
like producers are interested and then all of a sudden they just back out like last minute. You know?
I feel like that does no good for the film industry. You know,
no, it doesn't.
These people don't get credit. They don't, you know, maybe they get paid for whatever time they were working on, which is good. But, you know, film and schedules and things like that, you attach such a big part of your life to around shooting a movie. You know, it can be months. Yeah. And here you are taking on something that you hope is going to offer a good return on you know, on your professional life. And you block out that time. You don't accept any other jobs during that time. And here all these people are, you know, attaching to these movies. And here it is, like that. Now here's something that they're going to go uncredited for. Here's something that, you know, they were hoping probably could get their name out there, and now it could be
their big break. Exactly.
And they turned down these roles because, you know, movies, unfortunately, you do have to block out a big part of your time.
It's a big commitment. Yeah. It's not like just something you come in for like a week for and then that's it. You know, like it's exactly like, especially with like more mid or high budget films, like it takes so much out of like a lot of the actors and the crew members too, you know?
I think hopefully what we see is just maybe some more studios kind of honing in on that, because I think there is money to be made. That's something that maybe we'll see in the future with some of these smaller studios, maybe finding where they can fund those mid-budget movies again. Because I think the big studios, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, they're not interested.
They're focused on their blockbusters and, their really low-end stuff, or maybe things that they can kind of shop around for and pick up for cheap.
Distribution rights, things
exactly.
like that.
But I think if a studio or a band of studios can find that sweet spot of how to do it right between that 20 million to 60 million or whatever, I think we could see kind of a new renaissance in those type of movies,
And I feel like honestly too also is like I feel like there's an audience for it anyways. It's not like there is like nobody would go and see it. Like I feel like if you told somebody like, hey, maybe this is a little bit more ambitious, but it's also pretty small too, I think people would honestly give it a chance in some way, shape, or form if you just market it right.
You really have to find out how to, go attach yourself to that mainstream culture. What is preventing them from going to see those movies? Is it something that maybe they just kind of akin to streaming, like, oh, I could watch it on streaming? That's the thing. I don't really know what's preventing them from going to on day one to go and watch that movie.
I feel like it's a mix of that, but then the thing with Charlie Kaufman is like his stuff is so depressing anyways, and it's very like high concept that it's like it's very inaccessible a lot of the time, which is kind of the unfortunate thing. And if you see trailers for like any of his movies, they clearly trick you into thinking it's like something else when it's like clearly not. So there's also that too.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I want to start hearing less of these stories. I feel like I've just been hearing more and more of them, of things getting canceled, production getting shut down. And that's just not good for anyone.
Yeah, it's sad to hear, and it's like, I want to see more projects from these filmmakers anyways,
Exactly. What was that next bit of movie news that you wanted to discuss?
Something that's on the more brighter side of what we just talked about. Disney is officially bringing back the Muppet Show. They're going to do a special. Disney has officially announced that they're bringing back the Muppet Show for like a kind of reboot, comeback special type of thing. It's going to be produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, which, okay, that's kind of fine, I guess. And their first guest they officially announced was going to be Sabrina Carpenter, which that excites me. I love Sabrina Carpenter, her music and everything. So I'm like, that's really cool. And she kind of fits the Muppet style and everything. We'll definitely see how it turns out for sure. If this special does well, we'll be getting more from the Muppet Show and everything. And this is really exciting. This is something that I'm very interested to see what the spin they'll be bringing to a more kind of modern day Muppets type of thing. Especially because, I mean, the last thing we talked about with the Muppets Most Wanted thing a while back, that was kind of like really the last time we had really seen like kind of the Muppets more in like a mainstream type of thing, or having like big celebrity names attached to it. So it's very promising to hear. I'm very excited to see when like a teaser or something comes out for this, to kind of see just kind of what they'll offer, to like kind of a more modern day spin on it.
Nice.
So how did you feel with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to hear that, a franchise that's been kind of dormant for a little bit, finds new life and gets a fresh start. And I feel like what it kind of comes down to is just someone having the right idea. What's that right idea that, okay, now this is worth bringing back, and that excites me because you feel that passion of, this thing was dormant, and why is it coming back now? It's because I think they have a good idea of how they want to go about it,
Which is so exciting, honestly.
It's not like some other franchises where, they, to retain the rights, they must make a new film or,
it's
something
not like
that.
The Smurfs, it's not like that.
Exactly. So I'm excited. It is interesting to see, how they kind of handle the modern, like you said, the modern day.
Yeah, just because obviously, it was big in the 70s and everything. And I just, obviously they have their kind of niche style of humor. I'm just very curious to see how that style of humor will work for something like this, especially bringing on more like, newer celebrities now and seeing how they kind of fit in with the Muppets, kind of hearing. I mean, I was kind of surprised they already announced like the first guest so quickly and everything too, so that's actually really exciting, you know?
They might have a lot more work done on it than I guess, I mean, I was thinking, because I really had no idea that this was on the table and it was being worked on.
Yeah, exactly, too.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited. I'll definitely check it out. I will say Sabrina Carpenter, I can give or take. I mean, I hear a couple of her songs and things, but I don't really, know that much about her. And especially acting wise, things like that.
I kind of like her sometimes as an actress, but I definitely prefer her more just music side, honestly. But
But it is exciting. So let's see what they kind of turn out. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm pretty sure hopefully it's less than a year away. I mean,
yeah, so it's actually coming out sometime around 2026.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll talk more about it when more info comes out for sure. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Was there any other bit of news, or was that it?
There was one more thing. We're getting a Super Mario Galaxy movie.
Okay. I forgot about this.
Insane for the second film in your Mario franchise. Okay.
All right.
I'll
give a little preamble. So I was I was sitting there watching the Nintendo Direct. And as you guys know, it's the 40th anniversary of Mario, which is a big deal.
Of course.
Mario is multi-generational at this point, and it's really cool to see. Like, for instance, in their last game, Mario Odyssey, you had throwbacks to so many different eras of Mario. You had the old 8-bit stuff, then you had throwbacks to their 64-bit era. You had throwbacks to, some of their more newer games. And it was just like this cool amalgamation of just like, damn, Mario really has been around for so many people. You could talk to your parents and say the name Mario. They know who you're talking about because that was such a big deal back in the day.
Right.
You can go to the youngest kid on the street and be like, hey, Mario. And they're going to know exactly what you're talking about, which for me is really cool. So I'm watching this Switch Direct, and they do a little cast announcement.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. A couple returning voices and everything, and I was like, all right. Like, I was obviously expected. All these names are going to come back.
Yeah.
I believe they had a new name. I forget who it was for. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, they go through this cast announcement, and then they kind of cut to like a little sizzle reel, and it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously the animation very straightforward and everything.
I guess.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And it shows Mario resting under a tree, and it follows like this butterfly and everything. And I was curious because I was like, obviously the butterfly's going to this castle. So in my mind, I'm thinking like Super Mario World, SNES. They're probably going to do something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Bring in like the Koopa Kids or whatever. And out of nowhere, this butterfly flies up through the clouds. And I was just like, wait a minute, what the heck? And then the camera pans up to space. And I was like, no way this is going to happen. And out of nowhere, it says the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And the music caught me right away. I was like, holy shit. Like, I immediately, just this wave of nostalgia came over me, and I was just like, holy crap.
That's insane.
That's insane. And I remember thinking like, wait, what? They're going to do this? Like, and for some people, because I saw some people reacting to it, and, they, I guess, maybe more fans of movies than they are of games. But Super Mario Galaxy was a game that came out on the Wii. Back in like 2007.
Yeah, I remember playing that game actually.
I remember it too.
Also as a kid.
Yeah.
That was like one of my favorite Mario games.
I rented it or no, I bought it. Yeah, I bought it. And it was crazy. I'll tell a little story. We went out of town. I remember playing it so much and I was so excited. And then we had to go on a vacation and we came back and our house was broken into. And immediately I was like, my first thought was, I hope everything's okay. But my real first thought as a kid was, I hope they didn't take my Wii. And the wave of relief I felt when I saw my Wii was still sitting there and Mario Galaxy was right next to it. I was like, thank God. That's so effed up. But yeah, Mario Galaxy is such a cool game. I mean, visually, I think it's the most, unique style of Mario game.
Definitely, yeah. Like, I love just like the 3D world of it. I love the music in that game. I think that's honestly the best use of Bowser for me too.
Oh, also. Easily. And it's so visually appealing, like the way the space works with the gameplay, like the planets and everything.
The way you kind of like control Mario and everything's like really cool and unique too.
And it introduces some new characters like Rosalina, and you have the Lumas, which were in the first Mario movie.
That's true.
So seeing that, I guess maybe I probably should have guessed that they were doing it. But yeah, it has this great story. Obviously, it's the same story we all know. Bowser and Peach,
Which I want to know how they're going to do this with this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the supporting characters in it, though, don't really play a big role, I'll say.
Right. Like Peach doesn't really play that much of a role.
Yeah, Luigi is kind of like an end credits kind of thing. He's just kind of there. And then same with Yoshi, completely absent from the game.
Though he's in the second one.
He is in the second one. Yeah. So maybe they are kind of doing like a blend of both. I will say, I don't think they're going to do a straight up adaptation of the game.
I'd be very surprised if they did, because again, it's just a very simple story. But
I think what they are is they're borrowing a lot from that visual style, because for everyone, I will say, like, I think that's the most out there visual style, and it really just stands apart from a lot of the other Mario games. I will say maybe Sunshine could compare to that, but Mario Galaxy really just has that unique style that I feel like they haven't recaptured. They like the 3D Mario World game on the Wii U, like nothing, like even Odyssey. Like I love Odyssey. That's my favorite Mario game, but I still feel like the style of that isn't as, synonymous and unique as Mario Galaxy was with the Wii. First thing you think of when you mention the Wii, most people might think of Mario Galaxy. That's how big it was.
Or New Super Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah, that too. But yeah, so I was not expecting it. I'm excited. It kind of gave me more excitement than I originally had for this Mario Brothers sequel.
Oh really? Okay.
Just because I liked the first one. I'm probably in the minority. I enjoyed it. But I wasn't really too amped up for a sequel. So now that I see this title and everything, I'm not going to lie, I'm actually really interested, and I really want to see how they go about this,
Okay, for sure. I think it's fine. I mean, granted, I wasn't too crazy about the first Mario film. The only thing that really is just like it would be exciting if it wasn't for the fact that it's Illumination. Like, I think if it just wasn't Illumination and you got better other filmmakers to make it, I think it would be a lot more better. I just kind of wish they would do maybe like a different animation studio or something like that. But I'll eat my own words if it turns out well. I'm still willing to give it a chance, just because I really want to see how this Mario Galaxy film will work, and how like Rosalina will play a part, and Lumas and everything like that. So I guess, I don't know. And also, I mean, Jack Black's always great too. So I mean, for right now, I think it seems fine. Yeah, it seems okay to me.
It's definitely a bold step to kind of.
It just surprised me too. Like we're already on to Mario Galaxy too. I was like, oh wow, that was so quick. It's only been like almost 3 years since the last film. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, they kind of churned this one out like pretty quickly.
Let's see how fast it comes out. I mean, I'm honestly interested to see when that first trailer drops. Like, what does this look like?
Yeah, I think I'll have a better idea, just because it's such a small teaser and everything. There's not much to offer. But I mean, one thing I do hope they do with this Mario Galaxy film is they actually use music from the Mario Galaxy film or Mario Galaxy game, because that was one of my biggest issues with that first film, is that they just kind of used like, the typical Illumination thing of like using like licensed music that you've heard before, like Thunderstruck and Take On Me, So I really hope with this second film they actually like lean more into like the score of Mario Galaxy.
I think so. I think when they showed the teaser and everything, and they had that motif that is obviously the moment you boot up the game, that's what plays. I think that was a big indication of like, we're leaning into Mario Galaxy, we're not shy about it. And especially with the fact that the title is just the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It's not Mario Brothers 2, you know.
I know, yeah.
Like, yeah. So I was just like, okay, like, wow, that's very interesting. Another cool thing with that direct, they said that they're going to re-release Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch. So
nice.
If you haven't played those games, they are
please play them.
They're going to be coming out in October.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Which for me, I'll be straight up, I've never played Mario Galaxy 2.
Neither have I.
This is going to be my first time. And I'm pretty excited because I've heard that Mario Galaxy 2 is better than Mario Galaxy. Yeah.
Wow. It's pretty cool.
And Yoshi's in it. So
Yoshi.
So that's a winner in my book. All right. That is it for movie news.
Yeah, that's
what are we
a
talking
lot.
about? Yeah, that is a lot.
Okay. So it was my turn to recommend a film. I guess this is my first Halloween recommendation for the year. So I recommended a film called Lake Michigan Monster, directed by Ryland Brickson Cole Tews. So I forgot to say his full name the last episode, but that's his full name. He directed it, wrote it, and he's the main actor of the film also. And essentially what the film is about is it's about a Captain Seafield and his crew, as he calls them, the team of the century. They basically are trying to look for a sea monster. And that is pretty much the whole film. It's a very short film too. And one of the things that intrigues me a lot with this film is that the budget of the film is actually $7,000.
Jesus Christ.
And the things that they're able to pull off in this film are genuinely mind-blowing to me, between the effects and a lot of the comedy of the film. I guess the way I kind of came across it was, I remember when I saw the poster, it had like a really intriguing poster to it that I was like, I got to check this out. And first time I saw it, I remember really enjoying it, but just some of the stuff there's like a few things I didn't really like connect with me on like a first watch. But I was kind of surprised rewatching it for the episode, how much of the humor was surprisingly landing for me a lot more. There's a lot of like really funny running gags throughout the film. There's a lot of things with like the characters that I think are like pretty hilarious too. And I really appreciate that the film is a lot more of like a straight up comedy. Though I do kind of wish the film did lean a little bit more into horror stuff. I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, that was kind of, I guess, my introduction to it. And it was a film that really just kind of took me by surprise. And one I was kind of surprised I hadn't heard more about, especially after the big success that kind of Hundreds of Beavers has been having the past year. So Nabahi, what was kind of like your first impressions with this film and everything?
Yeah, right away when you put it on, it is reminiscent of, obviously an older era where movies and things were made. Obviously like those B movies and things like that. Yeah, like
60s, 70s kind of era.
Which is really cool. I mean, it's really cool to see a film that kind of, homages that era and everything. And they do a good job. Like there's so much visual flares and everything like that really just kind of leap off at the screen at you and really just kind of take a hold of you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's not an easy thing to do something like that, especially now hearing about this budget. I'm just like, how does that work? Like, how do you make something like that work?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I really like that this movie lends fully into that, and with the humor and everything. I feel like it really knows what it wanted to be from the start. This film doesn't feel like it's scared of, okay, well, how do we appease a lot of people? How do we,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this movie really is just fully itself, and it's not ashamed of that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate, like, one of the things I really appreciated rewatching it was just how much it, like, commits to a lot of the bits in the film. And one of the things I love, too, is just kind of, like, the whole lore of, like, this whole, like, kind of Lake Michigan monster and everything. Even just, like, in the intro, they give this, like, really goofy, like, corny intro sequence of, like, this whole, like, like, how they have, like, the scrolling text and everything. And he's all, he's all, my co-captain died, and that co-captain was my father. You know, and it's just like right away, it just like really sets the tone of the film, like surprisingly really quickly, you know, even though it does kind of like throw a lot at you. And I do kind of wish maybe there was a little bit more time with that intro. But I loved how just right away we have like this intro sequence, and then they introduce like the whole team with this like goofy little like the thing like filmmakers do where they have this like looking at like a camera type of thing, and you get like a brief introduction of like all the characters like Nedge Pepsi, Sean Shaughnessy, and the Navy guy. Yeah, you know. And one thing that I feel like that they use the very low budget to their advantage of is a lot of the locations in the film, you know, because obviously like you can tell like, yeah, it's a school, or yeah, it's like a museum, or it's just like the beach and things like that. But I love that they use it as like a way to drive a lot of the humor in the film. Like, especially in that beginning, like after he kind of introduces like the characters and like this kind of like monster and everything, he's all, this is a lion. This is a tiger. Yeah. It's the size of a lion. And I love that like the teacher comes in and he's all, Captain Seafield, you are expelled from the school, you know? And I love like they kind of use it as like a way to kind of feel the humor a lot more in the film and a lot more of like that absurdity. Yeah. So how did you kind of feel with like a lot about, you know, did it feel like it maybe took you out of the film or anything like that?
Honestly, no. I feel like the humor works really well for this movie. I mean, obviously not everything is going to be, you know, hit out of the park, you know, the funniest thing you've ever seen.
Right, exactly.
But the humor does really work, and they use, like Wallied said, they use a lot of, you know, the limited budget to its advantage to kind of make things, you know, clever and to make things funny. Which, I mean, when you have a low budget and things like that, that's something that you kind of do have to use as a crutch. You know, you don't have, you know, the amount of resources that other movies get. You know, you really have to think in a clever way to kind of have humor really land, you know? Yeah, and for sure. I will say, like, as much as the humor lands for me, you know, it really doesn't feel like cheap in any way. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's just bottom of the barrel kind of joke making, joke telling. You know, I'm like, that is pretty funny. And that, like, one of my favorite humor parts in the movie is kind of more towards the end. It's this kind of exchange of dialogue about city ordinances in, you know, the state that they're in. Oh yeah. On when these liquor stores kind of close. Oh, you know? Really? Okay. And like it just comes out of nowhere, but yet like that's something that is just, you know, it really kind of has that a clever mind behind it of how do I make this funny? You know, here we are, the climax of the movie.
Yeah, this is a really funny climax. Like that whole thing between like Captain Seafield and like Sean Shaughnessy, where Sean Shaughnessy is just like throwing like all these weapons at like Captain Seafield, and just like each weapon just gets like more and more insane. You know, I love like kind of like when like comedy, like that's like my favorite types of comedy films, like where they just see how far they can take some of the jokes, you know.
And it really feels like there's such a crazy blend at the end of almost kind of like this, you know, anime battle and this 60s black and white and obviously all this humor. And I was definitely watching that. I'm just like, how does all this work together? You know, this is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely would love to know how they kind of like were writing this film and everything as they were like coming up with it. One of my favorite bits in the film is like where Captain Seafield, he goes on this like boat. You could clearly tell it's like one of those like tour boats or whatever. And I love how like it's like it transitions to like a dream sequence, and just like all of a sudden they all kind of like disappear. And I love how like how like they show like the effects of like the boat. Yeah, and everything. And it's like it shouldn't work, but it surprisingly like really connects with me because it just has that kind of like unrealistic like kind of look into like the, you know, them finding a sea monster and everything. And I felt like for me that was probably the one scene that I think really showcased kind of the horror a little bit more well, especially that scene where they out of nowhere like you get it jumps to like one of the characters like that died earlier on in the film, you know. I thought that was like a pretty terrifying moment, and then him trying to like work the boat and everything I thought was like pretty funny too. Honestly, everything I think with Captain Seafield I think is like really funny. I love the whole kind of like running joke throughout the film is like he's not really like a sea captain basically.
Oh yeah.
Because like Ned Pepsi like asks him, she's like, what is it like being a sea captain? He's all, I'm not a sea captain. And she's all, well, I thought that was like your whole thing. You know, so you get lines like that I really love. Or I love the kind of like how later on in the film they reveal like Captain Seafield is like his whole building, like his whole home, quote unquote, and everything is like, it's just like the museum building. And then like Ned Pepsi has this realization. She's like, oh yeah, I was wondering why there was like other lions and other animals there. You know, they show like a scene of like the other characters like looking at some of the animals. They're all, oh, I didn't even realize that. And then she's all like, the checks are fake and everything. He's all, oh yeah, you know. And I love how it's a very small detail, but I love how like when they get their checks at the beginning, it's all like on the bottom left of like the check, it says yesterday's hard work for like the company. And then one thing too, also I like really love about the film, and obviously this is like the main focus of the film, is like I love how like the plan for them trying to catch the sea monster just gets like more and more like ridiculous and like insane, where you think like, okay, this is probably going to be the peak of it, but then like the movie just finds a way to make it more insane. Like for example, like in like the second time they do the plan, they make one of the characters naked basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that like he has this big like oversized sword or whatever. And one thing too is like I really loved like a lot of those like first POV shots of him like going underwater and it just going like more and more faster as it goes along too. Yeah. And I love that like kind of whole sequence of like when they kind of don't really show the monster or anything, but they kind of like show like its hand and they see like this kind of like, it kind of like the camera starts to like kind of shake and everything. It's very like B-movie horror-esque, which I like really loved. And then like they show like the little spurb going into like the guy's belly button or whatever.
There's a lot of creative camera work in this movie that just really kind of blows your mind. Like you mentioned with doing like those POVs and everything, I was just like, okay, wow, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, it really took me by surprise.
A low budget movie to kind of do this, or even with like the storytelling and everything, they find a way to composite everything with, you know, different layers, different, you know, effects and things like that. And it surprisingly holds together really well, and it feels really seamless. It doesn't really feel jarring or anything like that of just like, wait, what was that? You know, like everything in this movie really fits, you know, which I feel like that's kind of a hard task to pull off, you know?
Yeah, right. Especially, and honestly, like, even though it does have this like digital effect to it, it's still surprisingly kind of has this like film look to it that obviously they did like in post-production and everything. But man, it just it doesn't look distracting at all or anything, because sometimes you see some movies and they are trying to kind of have that old timey look to it, but it's like really distracting. But with this movie, it's just like it works like 100% for me. Like for me, like it really sucks me into that atmosphere of like, it feels like kind of timeless, you know? It feels like it could have been like something from like the 60s or 70s, but it also kind of has this like also modern kind of look and modern like random humor to it also, you know? One thing I also just like really, really love is I really love a lot of the music choices in this film. The credits song at the end is really funny too with the lyrics, but a lot of the music just really fits like the tone of the film. Like it's very like over the top. It's very like, you know, that kind of like 60s cinematic score, but it just like really works and it's very effective for some scenes, like especially the scene I was mentioning where like, you know, the guy gets attacked by the monster, you know, like that string section moment in that film, you know, I thought was like really cool. And then for me too, I really loved a lot of the music of when he goes to find his like next crew of people and it's like this army of like ghosts or whatever. It was like really funny, and I love how like they show these ghosts and they all like stack up on top of like one another when they're going to fight this like monster, and he basically just kind of uses them as like a shield basically. Yeah, that's kind of what I was mentioning, like when the film just gets more and more insane, it's like, wow, like you find other creative aspects. Like I wouldn't think of coming up with like a ghost army, but yeah, it fits the film, and it's like, yeah, of course Captain Seafield would find like an army of ghosts in this like church or whatever.
And I like the way they light everything Because obviously some of these older shows, things like that, 60s filmmaking, you can kind of see through some of the props, you can see through some of the costumes and things like that. But this movie, in certain moments when they light these things, they find a way to make it look not as cheap, you know, and they find a way to make these effects actually really kind of work, you know, whether that's through using like shadows, you know, or using certain lighting techniques. Is even with those ghosts, like it's something simple. They're wearing these masks and things like that, but man, they really stand out in this black and white.
Yeah, and the costuming looks incredible too. Like they have this like unique look to them and everything.
Yeah.
And then on top of it too, like there's just some other moments, like when they're doing the plan and everything, like they find this like egg and and like you come to find out, like, you know, they kill this egg and everything, and the way it's shot and everything, it's like extreme close-ups on his face of like Seafield just like yelling and screaming like he's like a total psychopath, you know, and it's just like, it's kind of horrifying. But also like it balances between being like kind of horrifying and also like kind of hilarious of like somebody who's just like gone mad and is just like so obsessed with like fighting this monster that it'll literally kill anything in its path. And I love how, and just the reveal of it is so silly of like how it's like you find out it's like this guy's baby with the monster.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like at this like grave and everything. You know, and they obviously the characters break up, which usually I'm like not a fan of that cliche of like, you know, that forced conflict thing. But the way they show it in this film is really hilarious, especially after you find out like it's the guy had a monster with the kid through like the little sperm thing or whatever. it's so ridiculous. And then I like the moment where he tries to like bring back the crew when they're playing like golf or whatever, and Captain Seafield's all pretending to play golf. I do think it's pretty funny at the beginning. I do think it goes on for a little bit too long, just with the whole pair of pairs thing.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was kind of surprised when I first saw it. I was like, oh, you couldn't even get back the crew and everything. He's kind of like on his own at that point.
Yeah.
How did you kind of feel about that?
I mean, it's something that I don't know. I think the humor does a great way of kind of meandering some of those slower parts, I guess, that do kind of linger on maybe for a bit too long. But honestly, when in this movie in particular, like when you see something funny, it's almost like you have to kind of remind yourself of kind of what you're watching, you know?
Yeah.
It's this weird blend of modern filmmaking and older, you know, homages and older types of humor and filmmaking. And some of the jokes that they have and humor that they have really pull from just so many different things. Like you're like the way the characters, you know, spout dialogue and things like that is very older type filmmaking, 60s era, things like that. Yet they're talking about modern things, and it's just like this whole kind of like mind-blowing like amalgamation of, you know, so many different types of filmmaking. And I'm just like, okay, like honestly, like it feels very, very unique and very creative, despite it being so kind of in service of this era of filmmaking.
Yeah, for sure.
I still, when I watch it, I'm like, this is like something that I haven't seen before. Like this is like paying those homages, but yet it feels so unique, and it feels like it's kind of its own thing.
It's definitely like a Frankenstein of things for sure.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like the humor for me, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you've seen the show. It's The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Oh yeah.
But it kind of reminds me a lot of that show watching this film, just with like the 60s horror stuff added in. But it has a lot of that kind of like same style of humor of just like, you know, it's like that kind of sea pirate adventures mixed in with like more absurd styles and surreal styles of humor, and it like just surprisingly works, and it has like this kind of unique spin to it. Even with the very short runtime, I was kind of surprised how much they get across, which I will say is one of my only complaints with the film, is that I just kind of wish it was honestly longer, you know? I think if it was like 20 minutes longer, I felt like this film would have been perfect, you know, just because like you can expand a lot more of those like running gags. You can expand more of like that humor, but also like just the stuff with like the monster, honestly. Like that's honestly something I wish maybe the film maybe showcased a little bit more of, just because that whole interaction that Seafield has with the monster was honestly like one of my favorite moments in the film. Especially the whole reveal and everything, and then the whole thing that they're like related or whatever.
That was wild. And then it does like this kind of animation storytelling,
which was incredible. And it just made me love the film even more on a rewatch. I was like, this is so good, you know? I'm like, of course they would have like a sequence like this, you know? And it's like a fun way to showcase exposition too, you know? I kind of wish maybe more films would maybe take advantage of that.
I thought the look of the monster was really cool. I was like, wow, this is actually
like with the makeup and everything and the teeth. And then honestly, like the whole fight like her and Seafield have, I was like, that's really awesome, you know?
They pull
like,
off a lot.
Yeah, and it's still insane to me that they're able to pull off a lot of this stuff too, because it just feels, it surprisingly just doesn't take me out of it in any way, shape, or form. It kind of, for me, feels like one of those films like you make with your friends on like maybe like a weekend or something like that, but just a little bit more like ambitious, you know?
Yeah.
Was there anything else you kind of wanted to add or anything with this?
Honestly, just the surprising, when you watch it, the pacing of the movie, really just kind of flies by.
It really does. It's crazy how invested you get so quickly with this film, you know, and you get so sucked into the world that this film offers to you.
And just knowing, you know, obviously how cheap it was and everything, and just what they're able to pull off, you get a appreciation for the drive behind this, you know, because you can see the passion on screen. You can feel it, and you can tell that, you know, they were going to do whatever it took to kind of make this work, you know, whether that's through the editing and everything, or even the day of, you know, shooting and everything. They really do as much as they can to make this work. And it pulls it off in a lot of different aspects, you know. Not all the humor lands, but I mean, no comedy is ever going to have 10 out of 10 jokes every time, and you're rolling on the floor laughing and all that stuff. So honestly, I think for what it does it really well.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I love how over the top a lot of the acting is. I love how theatrical it can be too. Like I mean, honestly, like it's really impressive that like Ryland Tews like wrote and directed it, and then also is like the main guy in it. Like that's such a hard thing to pull off, but like, my God, does he make it look like so easy and seamless, you know? He gives such a fantastic performance in this film. And same with, I feel like a lot of the actors in this film, like they feel like they're all very like, they have like their own kind of like silly, unique traits, and they just kind of crank up their traits to like 1,000, you know, whether it's through Sean Shaughnessy or Nej Pepsi with her sonar machine or whatever. I love the whole bit at the beginning where Nej Pepsi and Seafield are looking at the sonar, and Seafield's like, would you date any of the crew members? She's all, I don't think I would really do that. You know, and I love just kind of like her, well, specifically with Nej Pepsi, I love her, just like her delivery of like, it's kind of like monotone, but it's also that kind of like B-movie level of like acting, you know, which I could definitely see that being an issue for some people, but for me, it just really works. And I thought it was really hilarious.
Yeah.
And then one more bit I wanted to mention. I love the bit where they get like fish sticks, and out of nowhere, this like old lady comes. And then like, at the end, he's all, Martha, my wife. That was like such a cool subversion that I thought was hilarious. And I love when they're eating the fish sticks. For some reason, Seafield thinks it's like a good idea to like dip the fish stick into like whiskey, and he like tastes it. He's all, oh God, don't do that. And then one of the crew members tells him, he's all, why would you? He's all, no one is gonna do that, dude. Yeah. He's all, where's the ketchup? But yeah, overall, I mean, this film is really, really good. This was a film that I honestly was shocked I liked a lot more on a rewatch. I think a lot of the humor was really connecting with me a lot more on this rewatch and everything. And again, just the way they film this movie is like, it really puts you into the atmosphere of like the 60s, 70s B horror stuff, but it has this kind of like modern take on it, you know, and it has this like unique spin of like this style of humor that's coming from like, whether it's through like more absurd or surreal humor, or maybe like, you know, that kind of anime style of like fighting, which honestly the action sequences in this film are genuinely incredible. Like that whole sequence between like Sean Shaughnessy and like Seafield was really awesome and really, but also like really hilarious at the same time. It reminded me of something like a Stephen Chow film, like Shaolin Soccer. But yeah, really great film overall. I would just say like a few of my complaints just being like, again, I just wish it was like 20 minutes longer. There's definitely some things that I felt like could have been expanded upon with the humor a lot more. Or one thing that I felt like could have been cooler before the Ghost Army is maybe him getting a new crew and then they just kind of all die. You know, that could have been maybe something you try out. But yeah, and then just a few jokes that don't land, like some like the pair of pairs and like a few other jokes in the film. But yeah, other than that, really fun time all around. Really great film that has a lot of really great music choices, a lot of really funny moments throughout, and surprisingly a few scary moments, you know, and especially the design of the monster just looks absolutely incredible. And I'm still wondering how they did that, you know. And then, yeah, so, I mean, it's been really exciting to see these guys like continuing to just like make films. And honestly, I'm excited to see more of like what they have to offer, honestly, especially after Hundreds of Beavers. I was originally going to give this like a 7.5 out of 10, but I think the more I've sat with it and the more I've been like really thinking about it, I would probably say I'm at like a low 8 out of 10 for me personally.
Nice.
Yeah, this is one that I just have been thinking about a lot, one that I have been coming back to a lot and that I really recommend to you guys. Obviously, with this kind of film, the humor might connect with you, but it also might not connect with you. So depending on your style of humor, this might work for you for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, really great time all around. And one I'm just like, I love recommending to people, you know, especially if you love like films that blend comedy and horror.
Yeah. I really, definitely my main takeaway with this is just what they're able to pull off with the resources that they have is really astonishing. It really shows you, you know, the passion of filmmaking and the passion of knowing your vision while you're working on a movie. You really see that translated through the screen, and you see it in all aspects, you know, to the end of the film, whether it's through acting, writing, you know, editing, things like that. It really all kind of comes together in just such a strange way. So definitely I would recommend it. However, kind of like Wallied, you'll know pretty quickly if this is for you or this isn't for you.
Yeah, because it is very niche for sure. That's kind of the one hard thing with recommending this is like it really depends on your style of humor.
That tone holds true throughout the whole movie. So right away, 5-10 minutes in, if you're not gelling with it, I don't see this really kind of changing your mind at any point, to be honest.
Exactly.
So while it is good and while I do enjoy it, I will say this might not be for everyone. You might have a really hard time connecting with it. Obviously, humor is very subjective. So
exactly, yeah.
You either you like it or you don't, you know. And I will say, you know, as far as black and white, you know, 60s stuff is concerned, I do notice a lot of younger people having a harder time getting,
that's true.
Getting into that type of stuff. So really take it with a grain of salt. But like I said, 5-10 minutes in, if you're not connecting with it, I don't really see this movie at any point kind of changing your mind, unfortunately. But if you really love filmmaking, if you love, you know, creative visual movies and things, this movie is really, really enjoyable to watch. And I definitely just recommend, you know, sticking it through, even if you're having a hard time with it, you know, because as the movie progresses, I feel it goes for a lot of things that you're just like, oh, okay, wow, they're actually going. Like, as much as you hear about the sea monster, I didn't think they'd actually show it.
I
let
know,
alone
same.
have this whole battle go on. So it really just was like really impressive as the movie went on. Score wise, I'm probably at like a 7 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
I don't
nice.
really see myself rewatching this movie. But you know, who knows? Maybe on the right day, I might be like, oh, you know what? I kind of want to check that out again.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty sick, man. Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely have to recommend Hundreds of Beavers for sure, because that definitely, I feel like, improves a lot of the stuff that this film is doing for sure.
Yeah.
But this feels like a nice, like, precursor to that movie. It's obviously a lot more different for sure. But yeah, I'm really happy to hear you enjoyed it. I wasn't really sure how you were going to feel with this, because obviously this film is just so out there and very niche, you know, so I'm happy to hear this connected with you. But yeah, give it a watch, guys. Again, you might love it, you might hate it. But yeah, this is one I definitely just recommend if you're looking for something a lot more comedic this Halloween season. So yeah.
All right. Next recommendation on our horror movie Halloween Extravaganza.
What do we got?
It's going to be interesting. This is my first time doing this. I haven't done this as far as this show has been going on. But I figured, you know what, now is kind of the right time for it. Now is maybe kind of time for me to step outside of my boundaries a little bit. I'm going to recommend a movie that I have not seen.
Okay.
I was going back and forth with a few movies, even watching like Michigan Monster. I was thinking of doing a black and white movie, but I was like, you know what? We'll kind of wait and see how I feel.
Okay.
This movie I've heard so much about. I hear great things. I hear it's kind of an unappreciated movie in the genre. I know it has an American remake, things like that. But I have not seen either, so I really just don't know too much about it. I think I've seen part of a trailer, but honestly, I'm going to go into this pretty blind.
Okay.
It's a movie called Wreck, and it came out in 2007. I guess you could say Wreck or Record.
Oh,
it's a horror mystery.
Yeah.
It is a found footage type movie. So yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about it. It is a foreign language film, so I guess we could kind of know that going into it.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I've heard so many good things. And I'm just actually really interested because it does get recommended to me quite a bit. No pun intended. So yeah, that'll be the movie that we'll watch and talk about next time. So if you're like me and you love horror, this movie might be kind of in your headspace. You know, people might be talking about it. I don't know.
Okay,
but,
for sure.
Yeah, we're going to go back to 2007 and kind of that found footage era was really popping off at that time. It was
That's a fascinating era of horror for sure that I would love to get into. So
yeah. And rather than do something that, you know, obviously there are the staples for someone
Blair
like
Witch
me.
Project.
Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity. I was like, you know what? Let's kind of jump into that era, but let's do something that, you know, I don't really have any bias towards, which I find very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never seen this film or anything. I think I've maybe heard about it once or twice before. I think I might have seen the poster for it a long time ago, but yeah, I did not know this was a foreign language film. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for that movie, definitely check it out before our next show.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun, and we will keep going strong with the Halloween season over the next couple weeks.
Thank you all for subscribing and everything. We've noticed our subscriber count getting a little bit more bigger and everything. So thank you so much for staying with us and sticking with us. So we really appreciate it.
It's crazy. You guys need to stop because it's getting to the point now where I just don't even know how to feel about it. It's kind of just freaking me out. I'm like, where are these people coming from?
Yeah, we're getting a big audience. We're on a bigger pedestal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like it's just really kind of just freaking me out. So please stop. That's crazy, but yeah.
All right, good night, mates.
We'll see you on the next one.